Welcome to the episode of Just More Fix. This is James. With me in the episode is Lacey.
Hey.
You can find us online at justmorefix.com or on Twitter at justmorefix. If you like us, you can support us at Patreon, and you can give us a rating and review at Apple Podcasts, wherever you find us at. In this episode, we're going to talk about our games bucket list. And now, it's time to get our gaming fix.
I'm Willie D. Nelson from All Things Good and Nerdy, a pop culture podcast, part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other tantalizingly geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
Welcome to Just One More Fix. One not so quick. One announcement before we get things rolling today. As this episode drops, our Kickstarter will have completed. So as of right now, we've got 44 minutes to go and it's 327% funded. So just a big thank you to everyone out there, Patreon supporter, Kickstarter backer, anybody out there that supported us. We started this project 3 years ago and it's really grown into something that we really didn't expect to have happen. We keep doing something new every year, and this has been really awesome and a lot of support from a lot of different places. And so whether you are new to the show or have been supporting us from the beginning, just a big thank you to everyone because we wouldn't have gotten here without the support of everybody out there. So if you missed out on our Kickstarter, I'm sorry. You should have been listening to us already, I guess. But things will be progressing along, and we're going to send out, I'm not sure if it's going to be weekly or monthly updates. We'll see how it kind of pans out because I don't want to blow up everybody's inbox and that kind of stuff. But we'll be sending out updates as the production comes along and previews and all that kind of stuff. So just again, big thank you to everybody out there. It's been awesome to see the support from everybody in making sort of this project and funding zines and all that kind of stuff a reality, because Zine Quests were just really cool. And I'm also very big thanks to Kickstarter for doing that and supporting that for the second year, because it's really awesome. Lots of really cool projects. All right, so our Kickstarter is pretty stress-free, really. It wasn't that much stress, but I mean, there's just one more thing to do. So I thought this week we might just sort of geek out a little bit and have some fun, and we're going to break out our games bucket list. So this is games that either we want to play in, or games we want to run, or settings we want to play in or run. And is Orpheus on your list?
No,
okay, good. So I was going to say, I think we're going to make it through an episode without actually mentioning Orpheus on a bucket list. So right on. Kind of goes without saying, but you know.
It's always on the list.
Right. Oh, Orpheus, how I love thee.
Really,
Anyway.
completing the full Orpheus arc should be on the list.
Yeah.
Such a massive undertaking.
True. Very good. True story. All right, so you want to start this one off, or do you want me to go?
I'm going to start this one off with the big bomb drop. Speaking full story arcs, Dracula Dossier.
Oh, I knew it was going to come up.
Boom.
Right on.
But so I would love to play in this game, but I'm going to just come from back into the left and say I feel like I could run it better than you. I'm throwing the gauntlet down.
You know, as we sit here and you say that, I wouldn't have thought that. Just us, if I was just think about it. But as you say that, I think you have a much bigger and deeper appreciation of Dracula than I do, and I think that would be the deciding factor in making it that much better. Do you know what I'm saying? So while I wouldn't have agreed with that a moment ago. As soon as you said that, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. You probably definitely would. So that's awesome. On the bright side, there's so much stuff in there that even if I know everything out of that book, it isn't going to matter. Well, it's just one of those things. It's like, cool. There's a million choices. Who knows? Right. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to take that mantle and drop that gauntlet, like you just said, I am all about it, because I thought about putting that on my list, but I did not. And I would love to play a Dracula Dossier game. That would be wicked cool. I would be all about that game. Right on. Right on. Well, on the other part of it is, I really think that even if you do or don't run Dracula Dossier, I think you should just read the Dracula Unredacted, because one, you have a great appreciation of that book, right? And you know it already. It's not a bad read. Like, even for an older piece of literature, it's still it's a solid book. Do you know what I'm saying?
Dracula.
Right. So. No, but like, even Dracula on its own, there are some books that are older literature that just are hard to get through.
Yeah,
True. But what I'm saying though is
Frankenstein was, but it was worth it.
I agree.
King Lear, difficult to get through, but way better than some of the Shakespeare stuff they made. It's definitely Like, I'm sorry, it just is.
But like it's a piece of literature that is the writing is of its time, but it's still an easy read. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it moves. It's the way the chapters are structured. You know, like written as letters. It's just interesting. It's different, and I think it stays. It's weird that it's so old and yet has this kind of contemporary feel to it because of the structure of it. Does that make sense? So with that, I think that you should read it because, one, Ken Hite is awesome, and so is Gareth Ryder Hanrahan. And I think that you have an understanding and appreciation of that book that I certainly don't. I mean, I like it, but not the same way that you do. And I think that there would be things that's in there that you would enjoy and see in much greater detail than I would. So. Because it's got like 20,000 extra words in the book. It's like a whole nother novel, basically, you know? So
Exactly.
maybe. I don't know. Either way. Well, there's whole extra chapters too. So.
But you say things like that, and I'm like, well, exact have been added.
I think you would probably be able to tell once you read it. But alrighty, so I'm all about that game. So if you want to do it, I am more than happy to help you and show you whatever resources that we already have to put that together. That would be wicked cool. Alrighty, so I'm gonna follow in your vein of Gumshoe, and I'm gonna throw out the Yellow King. So while I really enjoy running the Yellow King, and I like that game a lot, shows like the first season of True Detective and The Dark on Netflix and those kind of things that really kind of speak to that King in Yellow kind of vibe with time being fluid and just how those are all that sort of like yellowy, creepy, you know, storylines. I really like those, but I know it's going to be really, really hard to pull off at you know, when you're being held up against what I think might be one of the single greatest seasons of television ever, right? You know, but I would really, really like to play in a Yellow King game. I think it would be good fun, and yeah, I like the Yellow King. I don't know, you know, if they like. Me and Lee are very much on the same page about, I think sometimes you run the games you want to play, you know, and but I also like to experience the way other people see that mythos sometimes because, you know, I see it one way and then someone else sees it just slightly to the left or to the right of it or whatever, you know, and then it's fun to kind of blend those two things together because that's what you're doing when you're telling a story, right?
It's weird. Is that investigative, surreal horror?
Yeah.
Is not something I feel like I'm good at doing, which is weird to me because I love horror and I'll do like hack and slash and I will do like body horror and like all of those things. But like for some reason, like weird horror to me is more difficult.
But that's the thing of it is like I feel sometimes when you talk about horror, like if you're a casual horror person, they all kind of blend together. Like you don't really see it. But if you're
so different.
No, I agree. And that's the part of it is that I think finding a horror voice is a challenge in and of itself, right? To run an effective horror game where it's just not repetitive gore, right? But then to sort of turn up the volume on whatever it is, you know, body horror or surreal horror or whatever the different genre of horror you're looking at is, it's really kind of its own like genre onto itself in a way. You know what I mean? You know, because they rely on different things, they do different things, and they sort of creep you out in different ways, you know? And while I know people that are totally okay to watch whatever slasher flicks and all kinds of stuff, and then there is some surreal horror and they're like, I can't do this. It just creeps me out in a way like in my bones it creeps me out, you know?
Or the opposite. People are like, well, that's obviously make-believe, but I can't handle like people that break into your house and kill you because that's too close.
Too close. Yeah. Right on. I agree.
My side.
It's all good.
So we're going to be sticking in the vein of things that are already an existing thing. So I guess I'm going to go with that trend. And the Dust RPG.
Yeah.
I would like more of that. Or even, I don't want to say it's the same thing, but it has it really doesn't even have a similar feel. It's just the steampunk vibe that I like in Space 1889 too, because they're completely different games other than that. But I like that sort of blending of historical fiction with science fiction. And so I want more of that. Dust is definitely my favorite.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, obviously. The diesel punk thing.
You know, I do like miniatures. I don't like miniature gaming necessarily. Of all the miniature gaming I've done, Dust is one, but I like because they're cool.
I agree. Neat. Especially when you have if you have a good assortment of a particular thing, to where you can do multiple things with them, it really adds a certain feel to it, you know? Because like in D&D, when you're doing stuff, it's like, oh, this is the Goblin tribe, but like they're just Goblin minis. You know what I mean? You know, for the most part, so that you don't see the difference between, oh, we're in the north, so it's this kind of Goblin or whatever. Whereas with Dust, we have a good amount of factions, so you can see, oh, these are actually Russian troops, and these are, you know, German troops, and this is, you know, mythos and whatever. Yeah, I get you.
Well, I think it's probably hitting extra hard because you guys have been gaming recently.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, but they're already laying out here. We just do a thing.
I've got a good itch for it too. I was actually sitting there doing things, and I was going to reach out to Dust Studios because they're in process for another version of the Dust RPG that is going to kind of come from the Dust Adventures. And we were part of the alpha playtest for that and the beta playtest. And I thought, oh, it'll be cool. You know, I'm pretty familiar with the game. Plus, you're part of the first playtest. If there's anything that we can do, you know, to sort of help give feedback or whatever, because I'm just a huge fan of it. It's awesome. So we'll see what happens. Alrighty, so let's see. I'm going to go with a genre that I would like to play in, but I know we have access to this really easy, but I would like to play in a Expanse style game. So the Expanse is like a hardcore science fiction kind of a thing, you know, and it's all inside the solar system. What? Okay. So, but like there's Mars and Earth and the belt, and then they started to get into some kind of like a multiverse thing now in the new seasons and whatever. But I don't know if it's one of those things where I like the idea of playing the game better than actually playing the game, because sci-fi stuff is kind of funny for me. If it's alien, I'm all about it, but sometimes I feel like it gets a little bit, I don't know, like the voices of the world and the story is kind of funny for me sometimes, if that makes sense. So I don't know if this is more something that I would like in my brain better to do than actually do, but at this point I would like to do it. So, but all that said, we do play it, I would like it to be something kind of gritty, sort of like Mothership-ish, if that makes sense, you know, that sort of OSR gritty kind of feel. But what's weird to me is I was talking the other day about science fiction stuff. For whatever reason, I like the OSR stuff, right? I like old D&D and Lamentations and all that stuff, right? The level progression, it's all good. I like it. But when we take it out of the fantasy context, for whatever reason, whatever the baggage is that I have from gaming, I'm not a big fan of levels and that kind of stuff once we get into like modern and sci-fi stuff.
The fantasy character set up for science fiction because all of the characters are physically hyper competent and social and mental skills are less valuable in that system. They just are. Right. And in science fiction, you're talking about a world where physical skills are, yes, valuable, but social skills are to the focus because it's science fiction. You know, so you're talking about computer nerds. And, you know, are there some tactical people there? Yes. Right. But there's also engineers and scientists and mechanics and, you know.
I never thought of it that way, but that makes sense.
I mean, could you do it with that? Yes. But that's really not what it's designed to do. Right on. Class. I don't know. It'd be a lot of all I'm saying. There are other systems that already do well.
Well, and then with that, a lot of level-based science fiction games come with psionic stuff, and that's their version of space-age magic, basically. And I'm just not into that kind of, you know what I mean? I'm kind of like, I want my magic over here and my sci-fi over here, and in between shall they meet, right? You know? So you know, terrible confession. I love Star Wars. I do not like to play the role-playing. I just don't. I like my Star Wars world. I like to watch it. I've never read a Star Wars book, but I suppose I wouldn't mind it, maybe.
Where I fall with science fiction, unless it's I do like Firefly, but that's really like it's science fiction kind of. It's more of a western, right? Yeah. And then sci-fi horror,
right? Okay. Yeah, Alien, I'm all good with.
But I don't know. Hard no.
Right on.
I would play it if it was at the table.
Yeah.
It's definitely not my jam.
I get it. Well, we were talking. Me and Alan were talking a little bit about, I think it was me and you, and I had mentioned it to him about Scum and Villainy and the possibility of busting that out to take it for a spin, because I think it would be I would be curious to see how it actually works the table and whatnot as an experiment. And I mean, Firefly's hard to beat, you know. So
I really like the Delta Green Kurt in running because it kind of scratches some kind of hardcore sci-fi itch while also my horror investigative expectations.
I will say I was not sure about it at first, and then once the unknown kind of crept into it and we were sort of touching on some mythos stuff, but it's in a really different way, because most mythos stuff is like, at least in my experience, has been 1920s, 1940s, you know, not in space, you know. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it was been fun, especially to be in space with the signal.
It'd be kind of funny to there's the whole Roswell UFO thing, and then this weird cross of circle skirt, you know, late 50s, early 60s. That would be an interesting. We got MK Ultra and all kinds of cool stuff. That'd be an interesting clash of cultures and belief systems.
Well, it's an interesting time, just period too. There's a lot of stuff happening in the 60s, so Weathermen and all that kind of, Oh yeah, right on. So
early 60s.
Right. So what's your next one?
Oh, sorry. Right. I think, but
I've got one that's probably gonna blow your mind away, but yeah, go for it.
dungeon crawls.
Okay. I considered it. I was back and forth. Right on.
And I know I'm all like, no, D&D, but I feel like, I don't know, but like I need to be better informed about the OSR gaming culture. And I definitely don't want to play anything that has Thaco or in it. I never have, and everybody seems to think it's terrible, and I just don't have time for that kind of character creation nonsense. But I do enjoy a good old school dungeon crawl, and I mean, we happen to know somebody that runs a ton of DCC.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like at least
the Thaco thing makes me laugh because there are these people that are like,
I don't want to play first edition or second edition. I barely want to play third edition.
Well, my thing is, it's like, okay, that's cool. It's where it all came from. That's fine, and we can acknowledge that. But it's sort of like, you do realize that Ascending Armor Class is infinitely more simple and better and 100 times easier to explain. And I don't need to draw a chart on my paper.
I've done some BX, and it has the armor class. It's like,
you can play it either way. And a lot of those old school games have it both. Yeah, it doesn't. At the time, that's all we had, so it makes sense. Okay, cool. When you don't know any better, that's what you do, right? But once there's an innovation that shows, oh wow, this is way better.
The single best.
Well, I don't know if I would go that far, but it is the single best thing that came out of third edition.
Okay,
without a doubt, hands down, without a doubt, right? So, and that's Jonathan Tweet. So good, kudos to him for
shout out to you, sir.
Right?
Because the other way, my brain hurts.
Right. Well, it's just, I don't want to linger on that one too much, but yeah, I could go on, but I'm not going to. Right on. So that'd be cool. No, I agree. It was interesting. We were looking at doing some other things and putting things together and looking at different stuff, and I realized how little of the OSR I have any clue about, unless it's within the small wheelhouse of the stuff that I have pursued or enjoyed. It also made me realize how big the OSR actually is. It's really, really big. There's a lot of different products and some that are more like hardcore and metal, like, Mork Borg, and then really kind of fluffy, elfy games. Do you know what I mean? But still in the OSR tradition, Mm-hmm. So it's shown how broad and big it is, which is cool because, hey, if you're playing games, it's all good, Well,
and so I don't like old school Dungeons and Dragons art. I don't like it.
Oh, right.
I don't like new school Dungeons and Dragons art. I don't like any of it.
Right.
And so all of these books have this sort of like 70s, 80s D&D throwback look. Uh-huh. And so I just am naturally not interested in picking up any of them.
Right. Well, it's like anything. The art is what grabs you initially, and if it doesn't grab you, then it doesn't grab you.
Probably not fair. And I've also, everything that's OSR that I've played, I've enjoyed.
Right.
So, okay, I should probably try this too. We probably should.
Right. Right on. Well, we'll have to get to the table. We'll get it figured out. Right on. All right. So since we're sticking with game systems here a little bit, I'm going to throw one out that I've ran unsuccessfully one time, but I would really like to give it another shot and see if I can't make it work. And it's, do you have a guess what it is?
I don't know. I'm curious.
Oh, you're
after
looking at
that
me
intro. I'm
okay.
What is it that you ran unsuccessfully?
I thought you had a guess when the way you're looking at me.
I don't remember bad things or good things.
Well, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't good. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's Don't Rest Your Head.
Okay. I think I remember playing like a session of that.
Yeah, we had a session and
but what I ended up reading through it and looking at it because I was going to run a game for just you with that system too. But it's a little tricky to wrap your mind around how it would work. Like I can see where the issue was because it's mentally
it's different.
Difficult.
Yeah, it's its own thing, and you think a genre or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And I really like that psychological, psychedelic, mind screw kind of horror stuff. And it's hard, and then.
So it's I guess for people that don't know, there's a system and you have like 3 different color dice, right? Black dice, white dice, and
technically there's 4 colors because the game master has his own, right? So there's
and you get
discipline, exhaustion, and
madness.
I think madness or pain. No, pain is what the game master rolls. And so you roll, and I think 1s, 2s, and 3s are successes, but then you're looking at the high numbers on the dice to see which of the 3 categories sort of dictate what that success or failure looks like, which is really kind of an interesting take on it. And then the game master is rolling as well.
So depending on which color has the most successes, flavors the nature of the success or failure.
Right.
So it's difficult
right,
to try it and think about that and up with all the different potential consequences and then plus the goal is a little bit different too. Like you want to, it's called Don't Rest Your Heads. You want to stay awake. And it's just, it's very different.
So the world itself is, I think is really cool, but I want to kind of blend the world from the book with Dark City.
Well, I think it's a pretty.
I agree. There's some of the things where I would prefer to turn some of the symbolism down a little bit with like the taxman and that kind of stuff.
Did you ask? Did you mask?
I don't think I did. I was supposed to, but I don't. That's a Neil Gaiman thing, isn't it? Yes, I did not.
That would be very good inspiration for that game.
Right on. So I need to watch that. Do we
The
have
whole
that?
thing is a dream. Yes, I bought it.
I thought we
That's
had it.
because I couldn't find it anywhere to watch and I see it, so I bought it. We have that.
I'll have to take it to work with me. I'll watch it at work one day. Right on. So yeah, mine is Don't Rest Yet. So I'm going to make that happen this year. It's just one of those things where I got to find the right moment, the right inspiration, and I think maybe the right table to make it happen or whatever. And one of the things that I think I failed at last time was I don't think I quite set the game up, because once people realized how surreal some of the world was, it was kind of jarring, and it sort of pulled them out like, wait, what? These guys have thumbtacks for heads? What is happening? You know? So I think that part is entirely on me. I need to, do a better job of sort of presenting what that world is. Yeah.
Now to reality, dreaming sort of.
I think it may be a thing, maybe too, of being like, hey, I'm gonna run this game. Here's 6 movies. Why don't you watch 1 or 2 of these off the list? This is what I'm going for, because they're kind of small, weird movies that maybe not everyone has seen or whatever. So
Sometimes for stuff like that, like it's good to watch that right before you want to run it. Maybe not like right before, but within a day or two.
Keep it fresh in the mind.
Well, yeah, and kind of switch your brain. It can be hard to go from just hard reality to weirdness, so you can't hold to
channel those kind of things.
Yeah. Sort of like having a happy-go-lucky day and then trying to Bluebeard's Bride. Like, I need a minute to like get my dark on.
Downshifted to terror, right? Like real terror. Yeah.
I think that was the last like system. I'm sure there's more, but I just
so I've got one more actual system game to do real quick, and it's just gonna be real brief.
Okay.
And this one will happen. We just haven't had a chance to get to the table yet, and we've actually talked about it several times. But it is A Town Called Malice by Monkey Fun Studios. So this kind of ties into TV shows that I really enjoy, like The Dark and that kind of stuff. So it's sort of like a Nordic horror noir kind of game with no GM.
I'm super interested. It seems way, way, way different than any of the Monkey Fun Studios games that I played before. Yeah. But they were all wicked awesome. So I feel like it's gonna be great, and I'm intrigued.
I've read it, and how Fiasco is. Like when you build a Fiasco game, it's just a disaster. There's nothing, there's almost no way, unless everyone at the table was cooperating to say, we are going to make this game not a Coen Brothers disaster, right?
And like, I know that Fiasco doesn't have to be silly, but I feel like it usually ends up being a little silly. And I think that's where this would be better, because there's somebody to keep you on track where it doesn't end up silly. Right.
So I feel like Malice does a good job of setting the game up in the same way that Fiasco does, just with different considerations. So it's pointing more, more away from a Coen Brothers movie and more towards things like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo or The Dark and that kind of stuff. So, and it's got a PBTA-ish thing to it. So I think it will be really, really good. It's just a matter of getting it to the table or whatever. So, but I think it's going to be awesome.
Every time I think about the two, next thought is the non-American was so much better.
Really, really was. We watched there's 3 of them, right? It's like 9 hours of movie.
Now. Yeah, we watched all.
Yeah, I think there's only one of them. Yeah. I agree. All right, so what's your next thing?
Okay, so my next one is like a theme or like a setting that I think would be really, really cool to either run a game in or play a game in, and it is the comic book Marvel 1602.
Right on.
I think and it's sort of, that fun feeling you get when you're playing Vampire Dark Ages, but maybe a little less hateful. But like supreme power in the 1600s just seems neat, right?
Yeah.
Like it seems like it would be a lot of fun.
Right. Supreme power in the 1600s. I think there were some nobles that felt that way.
Yeah.
They had an awesome time.
Like that, but so much cooler. Right. Plus, there's that fun witchcraft dynamic.
Right. Yeah. No, I get you.
And it's, really great comic, obviously, but because Neil Gaiman.
Right, true.
And Marvel.
Right.
And 1600s. What more could you ask for?
Right. Mostly Neil Gaiman, basically.
Yeah. There's a theme in my discussion.
Right on. So my next one is...
Okay, wait. Before you move, just question. If you had to choose a system to do that with, what would you...
Are we going to be superheroes?
Yeah. Listen, if the choice is mortal or hero, now I don't know if you're going to be team good or team evil. I don't know.
Right.
It could go either way, but...
Okay, I got a couple different choices. I think if you're not going to be superheroes, you do Colonial Gothic because it's done. It's already there, right?
Okay.
Like all the work is there, all the research. It's a really well-researched game. Done. Colonial Gothic. Poof. End of story, right? Because that's basically already that game. Well, they actually, there's a couple different books for it, so you can go a little earlier period or a little later than the Revolutionary War. So if you're doing superheroes, I have two thoughts. One is Aberrant, which a lot of people probably haven't heard of, but it's the White Wolf produced, I think it's in the Trinity universe is what it's called, but they are superheroes and it uses the D10 mechanic and it has a ton of different powers that are in there. But what I like about it specifically is that it was one of the first games where it was like, here's a power, like Quantum Bolt, right? So I can make my Quantum Bolt look like fire or ice or whatever it is, whether I'm the Human Torch or Iceman or whatever. Fundamentally, the mechanics are very similar. There's some things you can do to slightly change it, but it cleans up that mechanic real well.
So is it very similar to other White Wolf?
Yeah, so it's D10.
So you could slide it on top of all the other darkest stuff they already have in theory, and it would be fairly seamless.
All I would do, really, to be honest, would be I would take the Aberrant character sheet and I would go through the skill list and just change some skills out. So I would take Drive and change it to Ride.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a Dark Ages vampire skill list that's basic mortal skill list, and same thing with like their backgrounds, right? So
although
that's
I think I would use the Victorian Age skill list instead, maybe, or a combination of the three. You know what I'm saying? Or I guess 2 Dark Ages and Victorian Age, and go from there. So that would be one, right? But that game, there's a fair amount of crunch to it and that kind of stuff, right? The second choice that I would have would be to do some kind of Fate thing, whether it was Fate Accelerated or full Fate Core, or even the Fate like from Dresden Files where you have the mantles you can apply and make your powers aspects and stun and just go that route. And I think it would be a pretty easy way to, without a whole lot of effort on your part, having to build powers and that kind of stuff to get the game off the ground and going. So, yeah. All right. So my next one is a genre or world to play in, which kind of points at a game a little bit, but not necessarily. So it's Pan's Labyrinth.
Okay.
I would really, really like to play in a dark fairy tale game.
Change the natural pick, of course.
Yeah. The only thing is, though, is that I'm not sure, because as I thought about this, I'm not sure that you could do, it would be hard. I think you could.
So when
I think
you
it would be hard to do Pan's Labyrinth with Changeling Lost.
When you say Pan's Labyrinth, are you wanting like just regular mortals lost in this kind of world? Or are you wanting Changeling? Or would you play a Fae?
I think I want regular mortals in that world.
Okay.
And then if maybe it grew from that game or whatever. I think that I would rather play the mortals in that game. The idea being sort of some kind of dark fairy tale kind of world, you know, where you're sort of in over your head in this fairy tale world, you know. And whether you're a kid in the actual Pan's Labyrinth case, or you're teenagers or an adult or whatever, I'm not sure I have a preference that way, but that sort of dark fairy tale world, you know, I've always found it really, really interesting and intriguing, but just haven't really played in a game. I've ran several, you know, that were kind of in that vein, but
I agree for that necessarily work for that.
Yeah.
That makes a new Fae.
Right. You go that way. The only thing about doing it that way that I thought is there's a lot of mechanics that come along with World of Darkness. And I was thinking something more along like the PBTA vein where it's a little more, or Fate range, except
I don't like for that at all.
I don't either, but I think what I'm trying to get to is lighter mechanics. Do you know what I mean? Because I think you can, with PBTA specifically, you can kind of force certain genre things, and it doesn't automatically work that way with World of Darkness, because World of Darkness Mortal is so broad so that you can do anything with it, whether it's vampire or werewolf or whatever.
Right, with anything.
I don't know. I think I've seen a few kind of purpose-built PBTA things. I'm not sure. So just see. So what's your next one?
My next one is Discworld.
Right on. Yes.
I'm still sort of sad that there's not a good, like, the GURP system is the only one that's covered this way.
I think you do it with Fate Accelerated. I really, really do.
Yeah. No, I can agree. I think Fate works incredibly well for Discworld.
Because, like, there's not a lot of lethality in Discworld, except when there's supposed to be, and it's very clear, right? Or the lethality is very thematic, like when Detritus is in the cooler and he's writing things down and cooling down, and then is it Gimme? What's the dwarf's name that's with him? Can't think of the name. It's in the Night's Watch one where they have like it's the affirmative action one where there's the
Since I read him, I know there's Corporal Carrot, but yeah, he's the one who's like human but is a dwarf because he lived with the dwarves.
It's actually a dwarf that's hired as part of the guard. So it's the troll, the dwarf, and they're locked in the cooler, and you know, there's just so many great moments. But I think you could actually do it pretty easily mechanically with Fate Accelerated. I think it would work really well for that.
But I think I've developed a feel for the satire thing. I think I could make that work.
Right.
But
That could be a really fun con game,
I think it
too.
would just be fun.
Do you know what I mean? Like, everybody embracing it and being like, set all your baggage aside. It's a satirical game. Let's just have a good time and laugh. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Trump makes satire.
you know, sort of like shape.
It was like designed for satire.
Right.
Like,
and shaping the patrician a little bit to, you know, oh, it could be so much fun.
100%.
Yeah. So, but like, that's the thing of it is like, I can laugh at anything. I think it's all, you know, funny and awesome. So, I think could be a lot of fun. There should be some Discworld at the table. I agree with this very much. Right on. Right. So, my next one is going to be kind of out of left field. And I have no idea where this came from, but I want to play in a silly, I don't know, the only thing that I could think of to be close to it would be like Roger Rabbit. Like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Okay.
Like this silly, like, I don't know, like the movie is good. Like, yeah. And silly, but still has a purpose. And it's like, because like Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a great example of a movie that still has a plot structure and it moves along and all this kind of stuff, but it's completely ridiculous. And there's all this nonsense that happens and all this craziness and wackiness. And yeah, exactly. You know, like
I don't think they make that anymore.
No, they don't. I don't think so.
Jam?
No. Too far. So yeah, I don't know why, and I've seen a few role-playing systems that were actually like designed to run like a cartoon. You know, like it was part of the slapstick of it and all that kind of stuff. I just never dug into them for whatever reason, but I think it would be fun as like a palate cleanser, not like a long-term thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, hey, let's just one silly thing or whatever, you know. And so yeah, I thought it would be, you know.
I played a cartoon character in the game once, and it was a lot of fun.
I remember
That's the first time I ever played. I was literally anything out of a great time.
There was another game played where there was like that going. Either way, it's all good. Right on. So you have another one or no?
I do.
Right on.
I talked about this before, and I had put it on my list of goals one year to make one. And I talked to my brother about it even, and got him all excited about it. And we've been playing a ton of this game. So Zelda. Legend of Zelda RPG. Yes. I want to play in it. I want to run it. I want it to be a thing. So there you go.
I'll have to do some looking. I'm sure there's something out there already to at least springboard off of or use a resource to build off of or look for what you do or don't want to do. You know what I'm saying? You know, I guarantee there's got to be something out there. So yeah, we've gone on and on about Zelda a fair amount, but yeah, I think it'll be good. It'll be a lot of fun. Plus that it's a property that nearly anyone that's playing RPGs is vaguely familiar with, regardless of whether only the first game or up to the most recent one or everything in between.
Well, I spend a lot of time like when I'm playing the recent one, running around as what about this is it? Like, what about it? What about this game specifically is it that's so much better, that holds my attention so much better than others?
No,
Why?
I agree because I'm blown away because that game
and what about this game is it that's similar to the original that I like them in the same way?
It's got enough of the feel of the first one to where it draws me in and is nostalgic in really awesome ways, and yet is still fresh enough and interesting enough to keep drawing me back in. You know? Yeah. The challenges are hard enough. There's puzzles, but the challenges aren't too hard. You know? Yeah, I agree. Great game. Great. Right on. So I've got one last one, and I don't even know how to explain this, but this has been something that's been rolling around in my head for a long time. So I want to do something, and this is probably going to be a game that I'm going to try and figure out how to make it work or do something or customize something for it. But I want to run a psychedelic game, and not psychedelic like...
Explain.
Yeah, not psychedelic like you see on TV, like wacky 70s, 60s laughing. Do you know what I mean? Not like that, like actual psychedelic, like... oh my God, I'm blanking on the guy's name. Ran for sheriff, writer, wrote the Hells Angels book, invented gonzo journalism. I cannot think of his name right now. Shame on Hunter S. Thompson. Oh my God, I could not think of his name.
Oh, like the Fear in Las Vegas guy?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How is that not the thing that you said?
Because I knew him from other psychedelic stuff before Fear and Loathing.
Right, yeah, but...
Sorry. I don't know. The Hells Angels thing but that book is crazy. So I want to make a game that connects like the psychedelic experience to gaming. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I want to do...
Not a clue what you're talking about.
I don't know how to explain it. It's like this surreal psychedelic thing and then finding some way to make a game around that. Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't even know what it would look like or what it would be.
But like around what? Exactly.
About how like there's a higher truth contained inside all of it. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's not accessible unless you are having this experience. It's kind of the premise of a lot of the psychedelic stuff, right? That psychedelic
so you want
movement.
to run an investigative game that is in a different reality. So like you can only collect the clues if you're within a different reality at that time.
Yeah. And it's like somewhere between Gumshoe and Don't Rest Your Head thematically. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like how I guess maybe partially the world of Don't Rest Your Head, because it has the psychedelic world has a sort of like the symbolism and the surrealism of some of the things, where everything actually means something bigger, but also
like in Wonderland.
Kind of, yeah. And then in Don't Rest Your Head, you're always trying to stay awake. So in the similar premise, it would be you're always trying to not get sucked back into the real world, because once you lose that connection to the psychedelic world, then you can't connect with that anymore, and you can't figure it out. So it's this struggle between the two of trying to stay connected enough to where you don't lose your shit, basically, right? But not, like that the rub is sort of like managing that in between there. But I don't know what this is probably something we'll game storm, so just so you can think about this and let it roll around in your brain until that moment comes. But I don't know what the adversary would look like, or what it is you're trying to do. Like, what is the premise? Like, what are you doing in that story? Do you know what I'm saying? So, because like if you watch Fear and Loathing, it's like, what is happening? This is insanity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It is utter insanity.
Yeah. But there's a lot there. And those moments are really, really...
I think you're trying to be literally, right? Like maybe you're some kind of like weird medium crime solver. Like that could be a thing. Maybe it's a small thing. Or maybe it's a big thing. Maybe it's, like what's causing this weird natural disaster. But really, it's not a natural disaster. It has to do with this, psychic thing that you find out. And when you could decide to make your focus of the game, like you're a hero and you figure this out and you solve the thing. Or you could just be a regular person and you solve the thing and nobody, because you're crazy.
So I don't.
It could be any of those things.
I don't
like you
know
would be able to decide
what I want it to be or what I want it to look like. I don't know. I just know
it's interesting, right? Because some of those things are big things. Like those have all been done, but some of them are also small things. Like it could just be something like, why am I not succeeding in life? Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're very personal, like the Allison journey. That's very personal to her becoming a grown-up, basically. But
So the other problem I have is, like you say, it's very personal, which it is, because all those psychedelic experiences, all that stuff is very, very personal, right? So then in terms of a role-playing game...
No, I don't think it's less to do with its personal, like, to me as an individual player. It's personal as in it's related directly to the problem that my character has.
Right, okay.
So I don't think that's hard to figure out. I mean, it could be global warming, or it could be... why did my girlfriend leave me? It doesn't matter.
Right. But see, so when we put that in the context of a role-playing game, though, there's usually multiple players at the table. Mm-hmm. So now it's about managing some deeply individual experience, but having multiple players and trying to weave that together, which I think is going to be terribly hard to do.
So,
or do it effectively.
I think just if you're going to multi-problem something that's large enough that it affects them all, but it affects them all in a meaningful way.
Right. So that's part of the reason why I want to get some, as I think...
So maybe it affects everyone, but not necessarily in a meaningful way, which is why we're not doing anything.
There you go. So I think that's part of the reason why I want to run and play in some of the games that I have on my list. As I just think about this now, is that like Don't Rest Your Head obviously directly connects to this, right? A Town Called Malice, I think the way it sets the game up.
Fight Club.
Yeah, in a way. And then I mentioned Dark and that kind of stuff, like with the Yellow King. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of these pieces that kind of come together, like that I want to draw inspiration from to bring together into this, but I don't know what it would be or what it would look like. So something to think about and let roll around in your brain, because I'm sure we'll game storm and once I actually get something a little further along or whatever, So I don't know. We'll see. Right on. So do you have anything else, or are we finishing it up there?
That is all I had written down.
Okay.
So I think
very good. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for us this week. There's some awesome, maybe, inspiration or games that we want to get to the table. Hopefully they don't suck. So hopefully we'll work throughout the year to get these to our table. I don't think many of these were on our list of goals for this year, but it's always fun, I think, to kind of come back around to these and see things that you would just like enjoy playing in, because throughout the year it sort of like changes, depends on your mood, and what you kind of want to do and whatnot. So it's always kind of fun to come back and revisit this, because I think we've done this once or twice before over the past couple 3 years or whatever it's been. So I think we'll wrap this one up here. If there are any games out there that all of you are trying to get to your table, or really, really wanting to, or need some inspiration or some coaxing to get certain things to the table, hit us up on Twitter or on our Facebook group, or you can hit me up, James Just More Fix. Love to see what everybody else out there has the desire to try and get to the table. And along with all that awesome gaming, trying to get things to the table, really, really a big, big thank you to all the inspiration and all the support that we've gotten from all of our listeners and Patreon supporters and Kickstarter backers. Again, thank you so much. All this wouldn't be possible without all of you. So big, big thank you from all of us. I guess both of us now. Because there's only, and then there were 2. No, it's all good. Schedules, what are you going to do? So big thank you from us. And along with all of this, our Kickstarter is now over. And I guess probably got 10 or 12 minutes on it. Nope, it just ended 10 minutes ago. So big thank you to everyone there that supported us, and a big thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. If you like what we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/justonemorefix and support us over there and be awesome like our Patreon supporters like Simon McNair, Timothy Barra, Alistair H., Hector Trelane, Tiziano Furlano, Alan White, and the OG Todd Olson. As you know, we're also a member of the Gunna Geek Network, so you can head over to GunnaGeekNetwork.com and check out some of the awesome podcasts that are over there that have all kinds of geeky pod content. Well, I don't know what that would even, that's not even, I just made that a word. Pod content. You can check all that geeky pod content out over there. I think that'll do it for us this week, especially my talking mouth, lips, and tongue, because they're done. And I didn't even have any Jaeger tonight. I got no excuses. I just suck at life. And we will see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening. This has been an episode of Just One More Fix. Music has been provided by Kevin MacLeod. You can find him at incompetech.com. You can support us at patreon.com/JustOneMoreFix or follow us on Twitter at JustOneMoreFix.